Hey guys, it's Brett Burns of the Hollercraft Academy. I wanted to talk to you here from LandNav today about tips, tricks, and forked sticks. Things that can help us in the woods to get the most out of our camping experience, to get the most out of our woodsman time when we're hunting or camping and even in a survival situation. So today we're going to talk about the situation that I'm in and what my primary need is going to be in this case. Now in the last few days we've received snow, we've received sleet, we've received rain. Everything is saturated. Wood on the ground is extremely wet. That means that one of my biggest concerns is going to be a reliable way to create an effective fire. I'm going to use 3 different things to do that regardless of my situation. I'm going to use my carry-in knowledge, the knowledge that I go into this situation with. I'm going to use my environment, and then I'm going to use my survival kit to affect a fire regardless of how wet the ground is, how saturated it is, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Let's start with our carry-in knowledge. Now I know that green wood is not ideal to burn for heat. I also know that the wind is coming out of the northwest here. It's cold. It's getting colder. We're expecting snow over the course of the weekend. That means that I need a fire built. We know that our rules of 3 say that I have 3 hours of exposure and wind and cold without appropriate dress. I've got to get warm. So that means I need to build a fire. I'm not going to be looking for green wood. I'm not going to be looking for evergreens because I have fire starter. I can look for fat wood, I guess, but I'm going to be looking for those hardwoods that produce the most British thermal units. They expend the most calories burning and translate that into energy. That means I'm looking for hickory, I'm looking for oak, I'm going to be looking for nice dry maple and poplar as kindling. I'm going to be looking for those woods that I know I can get the most out of. So that's what we're going to do today as we travel in the woods looking to affect this fire right up here through LandNav, and I'm going to show you a couple other tips that I have. In my survival kit, I have our wax fire starters, I have our ferro rod, I have my full tang, full carbon knife, and that's going to get the job done. So let's hit the woods and let's use those tips and tricks to find what we need on this wet and soggy day. Now guys, you will notice as we walk through the woods today that we're carrying very minimum kit. I have my haversack, I've got my woodsman toolkit, and other than a little bit of camera gear, that's about it. We're looking for firewood, and I'm going to show you exactly what I look for in the woods and things that I look past when I'm in search of a fire to maybe dry out after a spill or just to get my camp established quickly. So let's take a look here because we're right up on my first suspect. Remember I told you that the ground is completely saturated here. I've got 3 or 4 sticks of fat wood with me. I've got a fire starter. I have nothing for a real fire. Now, as you'll see in the woods, and this is just unmaintained woods, you'll always be able to find things like this. This is exactly what I'm looking for to start that fire. This is about thumb diameter. It's bone dry because it's been hanging in the woods. So this is a very quick way to get dry firewood in a wet environment. Listen how dry that is. That is bone dry. And I don't have to worry about that moisture. We're going to pop all these off. Show you other couple of tricks in my bag for finding that firewood when the ground is just wet and your fire ain't having it today. Now, just behind us, you'll see that all of these trees fell ages ago. They're laying on the ground. This stuff is clearly very wet. All the way down here, all this stuff on the ground, it's been soaking in this groundwater and it's soaking wet. So we're going to pass up on a lot of that. We may break off some of these upward hanging limbs, but I see exactly what we're looking for just over here in the background. Let's cut, we'll go set up down there and take a look. Now, I've set my gear down here. We're going to make our way through the woods looking for all these tips, and I'll call them out to you as I see them. Now, this limb here, this is out of an oak that's fell. I can break all these little twigs off. They still have some moisture, but this is definitely better than that soaking wet stuff we looked at on the ground a minute ago. When we go all the way back here into the woods, we found a lot of examples that can really help us. This fell tree, this is bone dry. This is great stuff here. that's sticking up off the ground, we'll snag that. What we're really interested in is this large oak in the back that's filled but not quite. We're going to pull it too. Then we're going to come back and grab something off the ground right there, and we're going to get a fire going. Limbs off of this oak tree will make great firewood fast, as long as they're not too far gone. So in that survival situation, in that warming fire, all of this is going to get me where I need to be. Now, a little tip for gathering firewood is gather as much as you think you need, and then gather 2 times more. So 3 times as much as you think you need, you're going to be good. So we're going to grab all this, and this becomes our effective fire. All of this can be taken, it can be broken down. We're going to build a fire right over here, right off camera. I'll move so you can see. And all of that's going to make our fire. Now I have one other thing that is by far my favorite thing to do in the woods to get fire going. So let's take a look at that now. This is a perfect example of something to avoid. We see this and we say, that tree is definitely hanging. It's definitely dead standing. There's my fire. But with my carry-in knowledge of knowing that this is an evergreen, this is a pine tree, and we can see there are pine cones right over here, right next to the ground. This is going to burn fast, and it's not going to make an ideal fire. Now, is this a good source for fat wood? Not this one, it's way too little. But this is not what we're looking for in firewood. So we're going to leave that death trap up in the top of that tree. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a tool that we've already discussed in our kit to get that fork up out of that tree. And the way that we're going to do that is using our utility line that's carried in our survival kit, in our woodsman kit. This is part of our line kit. It has a bowline on one side. We're going to throw it up in the forks of that split and pull all of that down. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. First, just a word of safety. I removed my hat so I can see I don't have any compromised vision in the edge of my vision, my peripheral, as I'm pulling these things down. You don't want to get hit in the head. I'm going to take a good stick here. This is one of those splinters that already fell. I'll take and lark's head that bowline right over top of this so I can remove it quickly. And I'm going to throw it right up in the forks of that split. There we go. As it falls, as soon as I start pulling, all of this aerial stuff, this dry stuff comes down, and I'll add that to my firewood pile. Now here's the next problem. I can pull on this, but it's not going anywhere. I need to gain distance to keep it out of my face, and I need to do this safely. I'm going to do this with a second bowline knot on this side that's going to have a really large loop. Now, this won't stay in my kit. I'll take it back out of this line kit, but it's going to solve this problem today. I'm going to show you how I do that. Tie our wee bowline. There we go. And that gives me a handhold that I can get back. Now, I'm going to move the camera so you can see where I'm at safely, and then we're going to watch it split this tree out. Hang my hat up. That's woodsman rule number 1. I've got this bowline that's not going to tighten up on my hand and restrict me. I'll put my hand behind my hip. It gives me my full mass, and I'm not cutting into my hand. Got the bowline on my hand, and I can just pull. And as I pull, you'll see things start to move, and I'm looking for the weak points. So it looks to me like the weak point of this should be off to this side. I'll come back, get my utility rope, and I'll pull. Now, I'm not trying to split the whole thing out. I'm pulling these pieces that are accessible out of that split. The small splinters, they're going to help me get my fire dry. Let's keep going until we get enough of a source to build this fire. There we go. One nice large splinter. I'll process this down back in where we're building our fire, and that'll build nice dry firewood. I don't have a hole in my head. I'm doing great. Now, on our way back, I stumbled across this. This is the last missing part of our fire that we may have to supplement, and we may still. You'll see there's dry grasses. Now, these get saturated quickly in the woods. They also dry out quickly as long as they're standing up. So we're gonna grab a few handfuls. Oh, that's perfect. We'll grab a bunch of this. A good rule of thumb that I was always taught by my mentor is I should be able to fill up my hat with my bird's nest. As big as your head or your fire is dead. So we're gonna gather a great big old bundle of this. Get all this going. We still got a way to go. We'll gather up this big old bird's nest of these nice dry grasses, and we should actually have no problem getting our fire going and established with what we've collected off the landscape. That should do it. Big as my head, fire is dead. Let's go. Now, what we've done is we've gathered all of our stuff here, and just with anything else, we've kicked all this undergrowth out, so we're not at risk of starting an immediate fire here. And with this, we're going to start a fire that we can get stabilized so we can gather larger firewood. We can move away from it for 2 or 3 minutes. Now, what we're going to start with is preparation of our fire. The first thing we got to worry about is our bird's nest, which we've got pretty well here. We want this to stay dry above all else. So this is going in my hat. Keeps that up off the ground. Then we're going to start with our next size tinder. The smaller the better. So what I'm going to do is pull one of these large flakes off the splinter. I'm just going to break it down. All of that's going to be good for starting a fire. I'll continue to break it down and get the smaller the better. And I'll really roll that in my hand. I can split it with my knife, get it as small as possible. That is going to go on my makeshift firewood rack here. So everything's going to be prepped and I can just reach and grab it. We'll continue to break this down tool free as long as we can. No point in getting our knife out, beating and banging. We get all this splinters, all this stuff going. Now, is this a survival situation? I'm going to do this a little bit different. We're going to use our foundational knowledge, let's call it cheat to win, but this is not a survival situation. We're just in the woods. So we'll talk about that really quickly too. In a survival situation, I'm always going to use a fire starter to start my first fire. If I had a flamethrower, I'd be using it. I can get this fat wood all curled up so it'll take a flame easily, because it's really going to burn slower than anything else I have. If I break it off, that's okay. I'll flip it over to the other edge and I'll feather it up again. Get as many feathers as I can, using the full length of my blade rather than just wherever my hand falls. I'll give me 2 good curls. I'll put those up there with my bird's nest. Now, since this ground is really saturated, I want to build a hearth to build this fire on. I'm going to do that. I don't think my survival knife will quite do that. But I'm going to do that by building another foundation there, and I'm going to build my fire on top of this. Now that I've got all this ready to go, the only thing I got to have is my ferro rod, my fat wood, and a little bit of patience. So, we'll show you how we start this bird's nest. Now this bird's nest is fine, probably not fine enough to take a strike from a ferro rod all by itself. We're going to scrape the back of this fat wood, get any of that we can that's just that resin. You'll see those little bitty curls. We're going to get as many of those as we can. Get all that in there, because that will take a strike from a ferro rod. And give me a good little portion about the size of a silver dollar. everything's going to move fast. This is not flint and steel, so I don't have to worry about fanning the flames. So once I strike this ferro rod, we've got to move fast to get that fire ready to go. Now, make sure everything's okay, get all my corrosion off. I'm ready to go, and we're going to use a pump of a ferro rod. We're going to pump it over and over and over again until flame catches. Come on, baby. There we go. Now we're moving fast. Ferro rod goes up, fat wood goes in. While that fat wood's lighting, I'm gonna put my knife up. You'll notice that my bird's nest is already burning. My stage 1 tinder goes in. We want to be very careful not to extinguish that fat wood. And I'm gonna start log cabining this. Now all this is dry. I don't have to worry about it drying out. You see all that latent moisture. Anything that's got any moisture is going to make that white smoke. I can already feel the heat off this. It's cold today. Definitely cold today. Put any of this stuff that's the size of my thumb on there. And next thing you know, we have a fire built. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to maintain my fire kit by making sure my ferro rod's back in my fire. I'm going to move my companion hat. I'm going to fan some of that smoke a little bit too. We're in business. Now time is going to tell. This fire's starting to burn that thumb-proof stuff. I'm going to hit the woods and start finding more firewood to get this fire sustained. You guys watch that for me. And that takes me from needing fire to having fire directly off the landscape, using fat wood, and using our basic kit to get the job done. Guys, if you want to learn more tips and tricks like this for the woodsman, follow us at thehollercraftacademy.com. Check out some of our online courses. Check out some of our in-person courses, including basic woodsmanship and basic wilderness survival. All of these classes can help you turn all those emergency situations into inconvenient camping and get the most out of your time in the woods. Thanks.